Back to another Flutter tutorial. In this episode, let's finish building the register payment card page. So in the last episode, we make this page more dynamic, so now the user can register a new payment card and also edit the existing one using the same page right here. So to finish up, the first thing I want to do is now when the user click on submit button, we want to get all the information right here and save it inside our variable. So for that, we need to come right here, and then for each input field we need to update the onSave method. So you can come right here. So let's go back to this page right here, register payment card. If you see right here on the onSave, we don't have anything for now. So now for each input field, let's add the code for saving the data. So let's start by the name on card. So you can do right here. Let's call now our local variable the private payment card, do a question mark, then do dot, and call right here the name on card. This will be equal to then call the value or new value as we have it right here, and then do question mark, and then provide a default value. So right here, what you're doing, if the new value is not null, we'll assign it to this name on card. Otherwise, the default value will be an empty string. So then the next step is just to copy this code right here and do the same thing for the remaining input fields and just update the variable name. So come right here, paste it, change this one to be card number, then do right here for the expiration date, and this is CVV code. So now to do the drop down menu, what we can do is come right here inside of this on change. Before we call in this notice focus, what we can do is paste our code. So change right here to be the payment type, and then right here you provide the value. So otherwise, if the value is null, what is the default value they want to display? So you call right here the payment type, and then the default value will be the Visa one. So give it a comment right here. So now save everything. So like I said, the next step is to making now this submit button more dynamic. So when the user is submitting the form, we want to display a circular indicator right here instead of displaying this button with a text widget. So for that, let's introduce a new variable right here. This will be also of type boolean, and you call this is loading, and the default value will be false. So now let's get to this variable right here. Besides of displaying the circular indicator, we can also disable these input fields when the form is being processed. So to do that, you can come right here. For each input field, we have this property right here that is enable, and this will expect a boolean as a result. So right here, if you do exclamation mark and then let's call this is loading. So this way, if the value is true, this will be false, this will be disabled. When the value is false, this will be true. So you can just copy this code right here and then do the same thing for this text form fields. So now for the drop down menu, so you are able to disable this drop down menu. What you can do is come right here on this on change before we call in this anonymous arrow function right here. What we can do is call right here this is loading, and then check if the value is true. That means we want to disable this callback, so you provide the value as null. Otherwise, we'll call our arrow function right here, providing the value as an argument. So this way, we are able to disable this drop-down menu. So now, let's update now this button. So you can come right here inside of this build method. Let's scroll down until we find this elevator button. So right here in front of the child, we can do now check if this is loading. So you can do right here a question mark. So if this is loading, what I want to do is call a widget right here. So let's create a constant and just call a size box widget. So we're using size box widget right here, so we can have the width and the height property. So we can define the width to be 20 and also the height to be 20. And then for the child, we'll call now the circular progress indicator. So right here you can provide the color. So you can call color. Let's use colors dot black. And then we can also provide the width stroke. Right here, let's say the value will be 2. So right here, when we are submitting the form and the form is being processed, now the user will see the circular indicator. But before that, we'll see right here, we have the label to be updated or registered based on this is added in value. So right here, if you don't want to do a condition, you can just leave it as it is. This will be working the same way. So you can do the same thing right here. So right here is register card with capital C. So now that we have applied all this updating in this button, now let's focus our attention inside of this callback method. So you can come right here. So to prevent the user to resubmit the form, you can also do the same thing right here as we did with this drop down menu. So in the on press, you can check right here if this is loading. You can do right here a question mark. So if the value is true, let's say this will be null. Otherwise, we'll call this function right here. So instead of having this anonymous function, let's create a new function and assign this to this callback method right here. So you can come here, call this void, make it private, and let's call this handle on submit. So right here, now let's copy all this code right here. So this if condition, and let's paste it inside of our function right here. Then the next step I want to do is provide right here the built-in context. So call this context. Then just copy this function right here, and let's, instead of using this anonymous function, let's now use an arrow function and assign to our method right here. So as you can see, we are providing the context and an argument. So now inside of this code, so let's format everything first. So right here, we'll check if the form is valid, meaning if you have any validation error, this will be presented to the user. Otherwise, the form will be submitted. So the first thing I want to do is call the set state. And then let's update the value of this is loading. So this can disable the input fields and also show the progress indicator right here. So this is loading will be equal to true. Then we'll call our save method right here. I want this callback method now to be asynchronous. So for that, let's use right here the async keyword. This will make it asynchronous. So now we don't have a callback method to go to a web service. So let's call the future and just pretend that we are making a call to a web service. So before that, we can do right here a try catch. So use try, and then let's catch the exception right here. We need to provide an exception as an argument. Let's provide also the block instruction for this catch. And then we have this one finally, and this will do another action inside of this funnel. So now just copy this code right here, just cut it and paste it inside in between this try catch right here. So just paste it. So now when we call the save method, so right here I want to give a user the impression that we are processing the data, so you can use a wait, and then you can call right here the future. So future is the same way as we use in JavaScript. When you make a function that we need to wait for some time, you can use the future class right here. So do dot and then call delay. And here, let's say we want to delay the execution of our code for 2 seconds. So for that, you can use constant and call the duration class. And then call right here the seconds property. And then the value will be 2. So after that, now instead of displaying this message right here to the user, what we'll do is now create a string and call this message. And this will be equal to, now let's get this is editing, and then let's check if the value is true. That means the user in this editing mode. So we can do right here card and then do string interpolation. So let's call our payment card question mark dot the card number, and then let's say successfully updated. Otherwise, we'll provide a new message right here. So let's do basically the same thing. So just copy this code here, paste it right here, add a semicolon. So let's say now we call the name on card successfully updated. So here you can see now we have this quick line inside of this context. This is because we are calling this method now asynchronous. So right here we need, before we call the context, we need to make sure the context is still mounted. So you can do right here if condition, and then let's use exclamation mark. So let's do context dot mounted. So right here let's just return. So what I'm doing right here is check if the context is not mounted. That means we are not inside of this page anymore. So which means this page is not inside of the widget tree. So that's why we are returning out of this function. Otherwise, that means we still are in same this page. So we have displayed this message right here. So right here for the snack bar, besides of displaying our message, let's also provide a duration to it. So you can use the proper right here duration. And this can also be a constant duration class. And let's say we want to display now our snack bar message for just 2 seconds. So after we display the information to the user, usually we would go to the call our endpoint and provide information to update it. But now we don't have that, so we can come right here. You can also, again, let's do if condition, and now let's check again if the context is still mounted. Then what we'll do is check if the user is register a new page. To know that, we just come right here and just use exclamation mark, and let's use this is editing. So right here, if the value is false, that means the user is register a new payment card. So what we'll do is call now the navigator. Then now let's call push to replace. So here you provide the context, and also let's call the material page route. So right here, let's use an arrow function. So right here you use the underscore inside of it, and then let's call the constant, and then call the dashboard page. So call my dashboard this way. So right here, what we'll do, if the user is not in editing mode, usually you call your web service right here. You would call your web service and then display any message and then go to a new page. But as you can see, we don't have a callback, so let's leave as it is right here. So if the user is in editing mode, meaning this value right here is true, what we'll do is call now navigator, call the navigator again right here. And now let's call the pop. So we go back to the page, you provide the context, but now we also will provide the payment card as an argument. So what this means is when the user is updating information, we'll call our web service and then we'll display the same card back to the other page. So to send the information back to other page, you can use navigator.pop and you provide your data as a second argument for this pop method right here. So now let's do a code right here. So if we have any exception, so right here we'll check if the context is still mounted. Actually, let's deny if this context is still mounted. So right here we'll call a return. And then right here we want to display an exception to the user. So you can copy this code right here for this snack bar. Just paste it right here and let's apply some change to it. So let's remove this duration right here. Oh, actually, let's leave it to 1 second. So here we can also use this property right here, background color. So now let's change the background color for this notification. So let's use colors dot red. And then for the text we can do right here, call error. And then let's do a string interpolation providing this exception dot to string to it. So right here, if we have an exception, we'll display the exception back to the user using this scaffolding messenger that will call the snack bar widget. And then inside of this final, so whatever exception happens here, after we display this notification to the user, what we'll do is just come right here. Again, check if this page is still mounted. So you can do if mounted, come right here. So we can call the set state. And then we want to change this is loading back to false. So this will prevent when the user get an exception, we need to close the circular progress indicator afterwards. So now the only thing left to do is come back inside of this page. So now let's go inside of this edit and let's apply some change to it. So the first thing I want to do is make it asynchronous. So use the async keyword. So right here in front of this navigator push, because now we'll expect a payment card as a response, you can do right here var response. This will be equal to, let's call now await. So now we'll expect the data we need to use asynchronous. So we use await. And right here you provide the payment card as the type. So now we can do right here, we can do a if condition. And now the first thing I want to do is check if the context is still mounted. So context mounted. And response is not null. So then we'll call the set state. And then let's call our card list right here. Just call it. And then let's add the response that we get right here. So just call the response here. So add a semicolon. So now we also need to provide the context as an argument. So you can come right here, give it a comment, just call require, build context, and call this context. So we'll get this context as an argument right here. Let's make sure it's still mounted because we are using now a synchronous callback for this method right here. Then update the code right here. So we need to now call the context inside of our build method right here. So give it a comment here, paste it, and this will be assigned to the context. So now save everything. So now let's reload our app, get started. Let's now edit this card information. So swipe to edit. So let's change the name now to be DEVDSNDUO, and now let's change the expiration date to be December 2029. So now click right here on edit. You will see the data has been updated, and we'll see now the card has been updated right here. So as you can see, we are having a problem right here. Let's see what's the problem. So let's go back to this register page. So we have a problem in the callback. So let's go here. Right here, let's change it to be is loading. So this way we are able to now display the correct label. So now let's change back to 27. Click on update. You'll see we have a progress indicator, and now the card has been processed and updated. So this is it for this video. In the next video, let's focus our attention inside of the setting page. So let's create a few settings that the user can update inside of our application. So this is it for this video. If you find this video useful, give a like and also subscribe to our YouTube channel so you can get notification when new videos are coming out. This is it. See you on the next one.